There's a number that haunts me, a statistic that most people ignore until it becomes their reality. According to research from the National Institute on Aging, nearly 1 in 3 adults over 60 experience profound loneliness. And among those who live alone, that number rises to nearly 50%. Half of all older adults quietly battling isolation while the world moves on without them. At first, I didn't believe it. I thought, that won't happen to me. Because aging is supposed to be a time of wisdom, reflection, peace. But then I saw it, up close, in my own life. My uncle, a man who once filled every room with laughter, spent his last decade in near silence. Not because he lost his voice, but because slowly, the world around him stopped listening. It didn't happen all at once. It never does. At first, the invitations became less frequent, the phone calls shorter, conversations became more about checking in than genuine connection. He convinced himself it was normal. People get busy, he'd say. Life moves on. But deep down, I knew he felt it, that slow, creeping feeling of being forgotten. Then I started noticing it in others. Faces in coffee shops, on park benches, in waiting rooms, eyes that held stories no one asked to hear, memories trapped inside minds still longing to share them. But then I found something, a pattern, a single habit that separated those who faded into the background from those who thrived well into their 80s, 90s, even 100s. A habit so powerful, it could mean the difference between a life filled with purpose and connection or one spent watching the world from the sidelines. And the strangest part? Almost no one talks about it. Today, I'm going to share that habit with you. A simple but profound shift that can keep you happy, engaged, and fulfilled, no matter your age. Because loneliness isn't inevitable, and the way we age is a choice. I remember one time I met this old woman. I was rushing through my day, lost in thoughts, when I saw her. An 85-year-old woman sitting on a park bench sipping her tea, laughing as if she had just heard the greatest joke of her life. She wasn't staring at a phone, she wasn't lost in the past. She was alive, fully engaged with the world around her. And for a moment, I wondered, how? At her age, how did she have more energy, more light, more joy than people half her age? I had to ask, so I sat down next to her, expecting some profound, complicated secret. But what she told me? It was so simple, and yet so few ever practice it. Every day, she said, I make a choice to stay curious, to learn something new, to connect, to give my mind something to look forward to. That's all. It's not about age, it's about engagement. She didn't just exist, she engaged with life. And suddenly it all made sense. I thought back to my grandfather, a man of few words but deep wisdom. He used to say, happiness isn't about what you have, it's about what you do daily. At the time, I didn't fully understand. I thought happiness came from achievements, from things, from security. But now, looking at her, this 85-year-old woman radiating joy, I realized what he meant. Because I had seen the opposite too. I had seen people age into loneliness, not because they were abandoned, but because, little by little, they stopped engaging. They stopped learning, stopped connecting. Their world became smaller, their days repetitive, their joy quieter. As we grow older, it's easy to slip into routines that isolate us, fewer social interactions, less movement, fewer new experiences. Over time, it doesn't just affect our schedule, it affects our soul. And here's the part no one tells you. This doesn't happen overnight. It's not a single choice. It's a slow erosion, happening day by day, choice by choice, until one day we wake up and wonder where the time went. But it doesn't have to be this way. Because the happiest, most fulfilled elders, those who stay sharp, connected, and truly alive, they all share one thing in common. They never stop feeding their mind, body, and soul. And the good news? You can start today. It's easy to believe that life slows down as we age, that learning is for the young, that curiosity has an expiration date. But the happiest, sharpest, longest-living elders in the world, they know a truth that most people overlook. The key to staying vibrant, engaged, and fulfilled isn't just about staying active. It's about staying curious. Lifelong learning, daily engagement, a mind that refuses to be idle. This is the habit that changes everything. And it's not just about reading books, though books can be windows to entire worlds. It's about constantly feeding the mind, challenging the brain, and stepping into the unfamiliar every single day. Because here's what science tells us. Neuroscience. Lifelong learning literally reshapes the brain. New experiences create fresh neural pathways, reducing the risk of cognitive decline and dementia. Psychology. Engaging with new ideas and meaningful conversations releases dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, combating depression and fostering purpose. Longevity studies. Cultures with the highest number of centenarians, people living past 100, share one striking similarity. They never stop learning. In Okinawa, Japan, elders practice ikigai, a lifelong sense of purpose. In Sardinia, Italy, storytelling and problem-solving are daily rituals. In Loma Linda, California, seniors engage in constant community learning. And the result? They not only live longer, they live better. But if all of this is true, why do so many people stop? It's not because they don't want to learn. It's because somewhere along the way, the world convinced them they no longer needed to. That new skills were for the young, that asking questions made them look naive, that trying something new was a risk, not an adventure. But here's the truth. Learning isn't a privilege of youth, it's the fuel of longevity. And the best part? You can start today. It doesn't matter if you're 60, 70, 80, or beyond. Your brain is still capable, your mind is still hungry, and every day you have a choice to engage or to fade away. Because the real secret to aging well isn't about how many years you live, but how many new experiences you fill them with. You don't have to change your entire life overnight. You don't have to set grand resolutions or chase unrealistic dreams. The habit that keeps you happy and fulfilled well into your 80s and beyond, it's not built in dramatic transformations. It's built in the quiet moments. The small, daily choices that seem insignificant until one day they shape the very way you experience life. It starts with a simple idea, one that most people abandon far too soon. Stay curious, keep learning, keep feeding your mind, even when the world tells you there's nothing left to know. Try something new, gardening, painting, playing an instrument, even learning how to use a new piece of technology. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be impressive. It just has to challenge you, even in the smallest way. Because the mind is like a fire, it dims when left unattended. But introduce something new, something that forces you to think, to adapt, to question, and suddenly it sparks back to life. And then there's something even more powerful. Something no screen, no book, no solitary habit can replace. Conversation, connection, the simple act of speaking to someone new. Some of the loneliest people in the world aren't alone, they're just unheard. Talk to someone younger than you, ask them about their life. Listen, really listen, not to give advice, not to compare, but just to understand. And when they ask about yours, tell them, share your stories. Because your wisdom isn't meant to be tucked away in silence, it's meant to be passed on, carried forward, woven into someone else's journey. It doesn't have to be far. Maybe just a different route on your walk, a new cafe, a place you've never been, even if it's just down the street. Go somewhere that makes you feel like a beginner again, because every time you experience something new, no matter how small, you remind yourself that life is still unfolding, that there are still discoveries to be made, that you are still here, still growing, still becoming. But if there's one thing that slowly drains the soul, one habit that steals more joy than anything else, it's this: watching life instead of living it. But here's the shift. Simple, powerful, and immediate. Next time you learn something, don't just absorb it. Talk about it, discuss it, write it down, teach it to someone. Because the moment you take something in and turn it into an experience, into a thought, a discussion, an action, that's the moment it truly becomes a part of you. Because happiness isn't just about filling time. It's about filling time with meaning, with new thoughts, new challenges, new connections. It's about remembering that no matter how many years have passed, no matter how many routines have settled in, there's still more to learn, more to see, more to live. There's something no one tells you about getting older. It's not the body that slows first. It's the choices, the silent, unnoticed decisions made every single day, to stay in the same routine, to say no instead of yes, to settle into comfort instead of curiosity. And before you know it, years have passed, and something feels missing. But here's the truth. Happiness doesn't fade with age. It fades with habit. And most of the time, it's not the big things that steal joy. It's the small, unnoticed mistakes we make every day. Mistake number 1 is sticking to the same routine for decades. Routines feel safe. They create comfort, familiarity, a sense of order in an unpredictable world. But when routine becomes a prison, when the days begin to blur, when you wake up knowing exactly how the day will end, that's when something inside begins to quiet. The happiest elders? They break routine, not in dramatic ways, but in small, intentional ones. Taking a different route on their morning walk, trying a new type of food, reading a book they never thought they'd enjoy. Changing one thing every day so that life still feels fresh, still feels new. Because the brain thrives on novelty. And when you stop challenging it, when you stop feeding it something unexpected, it stops thriving. So ask yourself, when was the last time you did something for the first time? And the second mistake is withdrawing from social connections. Many people assume that as you get older, your world just naturally becomes smaller, that friendships fade, that people get busy, that loneliness is just part of life. But here's the truth. Loneliness isn't the absence of people. It's the absence of connection. And the saddest part? Most people don't withdraw because they have to. They withdraw out of habit. They get comfortable in their solitude. They convince themselves that reaching out is too much trouble, that new friendships aren't worth the effort, that their stories no longer matter. But look at the happiest, most fulfilled elders, the ones who laugh the loudest, who live the longest. They stay connected, not just with old friends, but with new people. They join groups, they engage in conversations, they make it a point to keep learning from others. Because connection isn't just about companionship, it's about staying alive inside. So the next time you think about skipping that phone call, that meetup, that conversation with a stranger, ask yourself, isolation or engagement, which one will you choose? And finally, mistake number 3, thinking it's too late to start something new. Some of the greatest artists, authors, and innovators didn't begin their life's work until after 60. Grandma Moses didn't pick up a paintbrush until she was 76. Colonel Sanders started KFC in his 60s. Frank McCourt wrote his first book at 66, and it won a Pulitzer Prize. So why do so many of us believe that after a certain age, the best moments have already passed? There is no age limit on learning. No expiration date on purpose. No rule that says you cannot wake up tomorrow and decide, this is the day I begin again. The only real mistake is believing that you've run out of time. Happiness in your later years doesn't just happen, it is built. It is created through the choices you make every single day. And the good news? You are still in control. So break the routine, say yes to connection, try something new, and never ever believe the lie that your best days are behind you. If there's one truth that time has revealed, it's this. The happiest, most fulfilled elders are not the wealthiest. Not the ones who avoided every hardship. Not the ones with perfect health or an easy past. They are the ones who never stopped engaging with life. The ones who never let curiosity fade, who never let their world grow too small. The ones who refused to be defined by a number, who understood that age is not a boundary, it's a beginning. And now, it's your turn. Starting today, choose something. One thing, one new skill to try, one conversation to start, one experience to embrace. It doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be yours. Because life doesn't slow down, we do. And every day we have a choice, to move with it, to stay engaged, to live fully, or to let it slip quietly past us. So, what will you choose? Now, I want to hear from you. What's something new you've learned recently? Share it in the comments. And if this video spoke to you, if it reminded you of something you had forgotten, hit that like button. Subscribe for more wisdom, more ways to make these years the fullest they can be.